Moving on to specific locations within Bloodborne, we've already discussed the various dream locations and their connection to Lovecraft's Dreamlands. The Dreamlands present a wide variety of locations, from grand cities to tranquil villages and nightmarish and incomprehensible realms filled with deadly and horrific monsters. The moon also has its own dreamlands, but it's inhabited by amorphous, toad-like creatures with tentacles known as moon beasts. They live in windowless cities and travel to Earth's dreamlands to sell rubies for slaves and gold. Bloodborne departs from Lovecraft's concept of the dreamlands by having multiple dream realities present simultaneously, each created and sustained by various Great Ones. This concept has been explored by other authors in the mythos, however. Yharnam is a city that takes on many common traits of Gothic horror and Victorian-era architecture. While Lovecraft was inspired by Gothic fiction and dabbled in it himself, Yharnam likely takes inspiration from many other authors and stories. Bergenworth College, the school of higher learning that delved into the discovery of Great Ones and a higher truth, is likely inspired by Miskatonic University from the Cthulhu mythos. While Miskatonic was originally an ordinary university that happened to contain a copy of the Necronomicon and several other mythos tomes, it has since become a focal point within the mythos for those wishing to learn more about the mythos. In the DLC content, The Old Hunters, we discover the fishing hamlet, a filthy, run-down village covered in decay and water. As the area is filled with violent enemies known as fishmen, resembling some hybrid of human and fish, the entire area is a reference to the village of Innsmouth and the Deep Ones, as depicted in Lovecraft's story, The Shadow over Innsmouth. You discover that the people of the hamlet were apparently worshipping a Great One that lived nearby in the ocean, known as Kaz, who they refer to as Mother Kaz, similar to Mother Hydra from the mythos. It's possible that Kaz was providing an abundance of food for the people of the hamlet in exchange for their worship, and when she washed up on the coast dead, they apparently took the parasites from her body. It's unknown if it was these parasites or something else that transformed the people into fishmen, as in The Shadow over Innsmouth, the people of Innsmouth spend years interbreeding with the Deep Ones. Much of the DLC content revolves around the concept of water, as you learn that in the early days of the Healing Church, they believed that the Great Ones were linked to the ocean. The depths of the oceans and what might lurk beneath their dark waters was a common trope in Lovecraft's stories, as it was one of his own deepest fears. Finally, let's discuss specific individuals and creatures within Bloodborne. While there are a number of human hunters that you encounter throughout the game, principal among them is Gehrman, known as the First Hunter. Gehrman would set many of the standards used by hunters following in his footsteps, but is now confined to the small area known as the Hunter's Dream. While it's arguable if he served as an inspiration, Gehrman shares similarities with the elder god Nodens, the Lord of the Great Abyss, largely known as a great hunter of beasts. Nodens notably assisted a human in Lovecraft's story The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath by offering guidance, but is mostly just interested in hunting for sport. Gehrman also shares some connection with the Moon Presence, the Great One seemingly involved in much of the game's plot, and Gehrman seems to imply that he is trapped in the Hunter's dream, unable to escape. Depending on interpretation, the Moon Presence could share similarities with the outer god Nyarlathotep, although rather than openly battling each other, the Moon Presence has trapped Gehrman and is keeping him locked away in this small dreamland. The Moon Presence also shares some physical similarities with the common depiction of Nyarlathotep's tentacled form. Another potential contender for a character similar to Nyarlathotep is the Blood Minister you encounter at the start of the game. In his dialogue, he clearly knows more than he lets on, and signs a unique contract with the player character, allowing them to travel to the hunter's dream. This contract also seemingly allows the player to become sustained by the dream, returning from death again and again. Why this Blood Minister is capable of creating such a connection, and exactly how much he knows about the events in Yharnam are unclear, as he disappears after you wake up from the blood treatment, never to be seen again. There are a number of enemies in the game, both regular and bosses, that share inspiration or similarities to elements of the mythos. There are multiple creatures, such as the brain suckers, with tentacles extending off of their face. While this is likely a direct reference to mind flayers in Dungeons & Dragons, they in turn were inspired by Chthonians, created by Brian Lumley. The labyrinth moles found in the Chalice dungeons underneath Yharnam also strongly resemble Chthonians, albeit much smaller. Also in the Chalice dungeons, you encounter Thumerians, a lost civilization of superhuman people that lived underground and worshipped the Great Ones. This shares many similarities with the people of Kinyan, as presented in the story The Mound, where the narrator encounters a superhuman race of people living underground that worship the Great Old Ones and Outer Gods. The creatures that you encounter at Bergenworth College, known as Garden of Eyes, somewhat resemble Migo, a race of flying insectoid creatures with heads covered in antennae. In the mythos, Migo remove humans' brains and place them in special cylinders in order to transport them through space. Bloodborne, the Garden of Eyes, most commonly jump and latch onto the player's head, doing no damage directly, but rapidly increasing their frenzy meter. As for bosses, we've already discussed Gehrman and the Moon Presence, and many of the early bosses in the game focus on their bestial nature rather than anything alien or cosmic. Ram is known as the vacuous spider, with vacuous meaning something that is mindless or lacks thought, much like Azathoth, the blind idiot god. Also, Ram is hidden away in her own realm that is practically an endless, empty void. And Ram is also responsible for maintaining some sort of dream or illusion across Yharnam, much like the theory of Azathoth maintaining the dream of our reality. In the Nightmare of Mensis, you discover the immense creature called the Brain of Mensis, a great one that consists of many eyes, growths, and limbs. This was probably partly inspired by the Shoggoth, which is described as being a vast, shapeless conjury of bubbles and black slime that are capable of forming limbs and organs spontaneously. Finally, underneath the cathedral ward of the Healing Church, you encounter a great one known as Ebritas, daughter of the cosmos. She is kept here by the Healing Church after they found her abandoned underneath Yharnam, and they have made great efforts in trying to communicate with her. She largely resembles some sort of combination of the Great Old One Cthulhu and the Elder Things from at the Mountains of Madness, such as having various tubes extending out from her body and possessing feelers on her face, similar to Cthulhu's tentacles. Brian Lumley created a great old one known as Cthulhu, Cthulhu's daughter that was capable of giving birth to Cthulhu should he ever die, and was thus kept secret and guarded on Earth by Cthulhu's minions. Well, it's incredibly likely that I've glossed over something and completely missed some connections, similarities, or inspirations between Bloodborne and the expansive mythos. I hope this video has